Hey, what's up guys, it's Disturbed, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the best DPS build for patch 1.2 that will allow you to do insane amounts of damage while still having a good amount of survivability on your side. I did already make a video like this, but while making that video I was unaware about the critical hit chance stealth nerf, where they basically made it cap out at 60% regardless of your pulse and your savage gloves and whatnot. And in that build I was using savage gloves, which wasn't helping me at all because I was already capped at 60% crit chance. So today I'm going to be repairing that build and making it even better. This video took me a really long time to make, so a like would be super appreciated. So let's get right into it. Before I say anything, this build is meant for a player versus environment, such as like incursions, killing NPCs in the dark zone, etc. It's still pretty good for going rogue, but it's not maximized. So if you want to know the best build for going rogue, I should have a video on that sometime in the future. Another thing, the DPS number shown on your character sheet doesn't matter. I actually made a separate video about this, so make sure to check it out if you're interested. But basically it doesn't accurately represent how much DPS you can do because it doesn't take multiple things into account when calculating your DPS. So bottom line, don't trust that number. The reason I say the build does 700k DPS is because if you actually do the math, it adds up to over 700,000 damage per second of shooting. Anyways, sorry to keep you waiting, let's get right into the build. One thing to note real quickly is that my gear isn't perfect, and if all my pieces were 240, my stats would actually be a lot better. And I'll explain to you while talking about my build how you can improve upon it if you had 240 pieces. So starting off with my firearms, toughness, and my skill power, I like to have a balance between firearms and stamina. Usually I have more stamina, but recently I had to switch a piece of gear, so now I have a lot more firearms, but just try to find a good balance between the two. And make sure that you have over 300k toughness. I achieved this by having very close to max armor and having about 80k health. You definitely want to make sure that you get max armor because otherwise you'll pretty much just get one-shotted all the time. If I could, I actually would have more stamina. I usually sit around like 90k health, but having at least 75k health isn't all that bad either. Moving on to your gear sets, you're going to be using 3-set Striker with 3-set Sentry. 3-set Striker gives you a 20% extra enemy armor damage, which is great because it's just flat out 20% damage increase. And for the 3-set, you get 50% critical hit damage, which is pretty good too because this build is based around using an SMG and maximizing your crits. Moving on to 3-set Sentry, the 2-set gives you a bonus of 20 or 30% headshot damage, which is actually bugged right now, so it gives a little bit more than that. And if you have good accuracy, this is absolutely amazing and makes your DPS just skyrocket because it's a huge 30% flat out increase. And for the 3-set bonus, we have an additional 20% damage to elites, which is a huge DPS increase as well. Now I'm just going to be going over your weapons, and then I'll get into the gear specifically afterwards. So for your primaries, you're obviously going to be using an SMG because of the built-in critical hit chance. A few good SMGs are the AUG, the Vector, the MP5, and the MP7, just to name a few. Just try to find one that has good talents on it. This is pretty much the most important part of your weapon, is trying to find a really good talent. The best talent that you can get on an SMG is Brutal because it's just a flat out huge damage increase to the head. But other great talents to name are a few are Deadly, Destructive, Self-Preserved, Responsive. Unforgiving isn't too bad. Fierce is good if it's a third talent, so you don't have to get Electronics, and same with Ferocious. Now in terms of modding your SMG, this is actually really important as well. For the scope, you want headshot damage and crit chance. For your magazine, you want magazine size and critical hit damage. You can also get magazine size with rate of fire, but I like the extra crit damage. For your grip, it doesn't really matter. And for your muzzle, just try to make sure that it has critical hit damage on it. In terms of your secondary weapon, I would highly suggest an M1A for those long range gunfights. Just try to get one with Brutal on it. And for modding it, everything will be pretty much the same as the AUG, just change the magazine to have magazine size and weapon damage instead of crit damage. Now getting onto the specifics of the gear, for your chest piece you want armor so that you can hit armor cap. Without it you won't hit armor cap. You want extra damage to elites, which helps your DPS out a lot, and you want a mod slot. For your mask, I have 2 mod slots because I need it in order to actually hit armor cap, but if you have a lot of 240 pieces and your armor really isn't slacking, then you can get rid of that second mod slot and get something like skill power or extra damage to elites. But like I said, I need that extra mod slot for the extra armor. Now for your knee pads, you want armor and critical hit damage. You need this again to hit armor cap, and that crit damage helps out a lot with your DPS. For minor attributes, try to get extra enemy armor damage. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually does help a lot. It's just 10%. It's actually a third of what the 2-set Striker bonus gives you, so that's really nice as well. Now for your backpack, on your major attributes, you can switch out skill power for armor if you need it, or for crit damage. I like to have the extra skill power so that my first aid heals me for more, and then for my second attribute, I have an extra mod slot. For your gloves, you want critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and damage to elites. These are very important DPS boosts, so make sure you get really good gloves. And for your holster, plain and simple, you just want that extra armor. Make sure that it has all 3 of the stats, because without that, you just, I don't know, it's just kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. So make sure to get all those 3 stats. Alright, moving on to your skills, you want to be using Pulse, because since you're sacrificing Savage Gloves, you can't hit 60% crit chance without using Pulse. In theory, you can, but you'd be trading off a lot of like major important stats, and it's just really not worth it or better than using Pulse. So you want Pulse with Tactical Scanner for the extra crit chance and the extra crit damage. Your second skill, I would highly suggest First Aid with Overdose, but if you want extra damage, feel free to use Booster Shot for a nice DPS increase. If there's already a lot of people in your group using a Pulse, you can switch out Sticky Bomb Flashbang to stun enemies, which can actually be really helpful. Now moving on to your talents, you want On the Move, which reduces incoming damage by 30% when you kill a hostile while moving. Since you're using an SMG, most of the time you're actually moving when you kill people, whether you realize that or not, because you're just like slightly moving and it will still count it as moving. So you have a reduced 30% damage up almost all of the time, which is really nice. And then we have for the next talent Precision, which is really good. It reads headshot a hostile to pulse them for 10 seconds. This talent actually applies the additional crit chance and crit damage from your base pulse stat, so when you don't have that pulse skill up, you still get the extra crit chance and crit damage, which is really amazing. Also, you can see them through walls, so that's pretty cool too. Now the next talent is One is None. This is arguably the best talent that you can get for SMGs, and it reads headshot a hostile to have a 50% chance of not consuming the bullet. This is amazing because when it doesn't consume the bullet, it will put that bullet right back in your magazine, allowing you to shoot more and more and increase your DPS by not having to reload that much. And it's great with SMGs because of the high rate of fire, and since you can get really close to them and you can maximize your headshots pretty nicely. And for your final talent, we have Combat Medic, which reads use a medkit and your allies to heal group members and proxies within 20 meters by 40%. This actually doesn't sound that great, but actually what it does is it heals you for 40% extra with your medkits on top of heal your group members. And it works when you're running solo as well. So using this will make your medkit heal you to 100% of your health almost instantly. So that's really nice to have. Side note, critical save is pretty nice to have as well, but I like Combat Medic more. Just thought I would mention that because critical save is pretty nice. So if you're worried about your survivability, you can definitely put on both of those. Alright, so that's it for the build. Now as you can see, I just do insane amounts of damage with this build, and that's why I absolutely love it, and I hope you guys love it too. If this video helped you out, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for videos similar to this one. I'll see you later, guys.